campaign returns for week 3. Welcome, Will.
Thank you very much. I'm all bundled up.
It is cold
It is cold.
outside, which makes it even more important to talk about these issues. And this week we're going to look at how you approach somebody in the street. If you're walking down the street and you feel compelled to approach somebody you think might need help or is homeless, then we're going to give you some tips about how to do that safely for yourself and safely for the other person involved, and you'll understand why that's so important as we go on through the video. So Will, briefly give an outline of why it's important to think about being safe when approaching somebody who needs help, because initially you think, oh goodness me, that person needs help, safety doesn't matter. Why is that important? Well,
the first thing is doing it in a safe way is the priority for both you and the person you're approaching. I mean, the first greeting is you ask the person their name, or you say, oh, hi, my name's Will, what's your name? We're doing that because we want to find out what the situation is from their part. So it's about choosing an opportunity so you're in not daylight, but certainly street light or daylight, that you don't have a small child with you, that perhaps they're left with their parent. So it's about saying to that person, hi, my name's so I live locally, what is it that I can do to help? And it might be that they respond by saying, oh, I'd love a cup of tea and a sandwich. That's fine. Or it might be, actually, I don't know where the housing department is. Or it might be that they're not in this town or they're moving somewhere else. But if you encourage them to explain a little bit of why they're there, that creates this sort of trust.
So what could go wrong, Will? Why are we talking about the word safe a lot in this instance?
You're approaching somebody who you don't know, and they don't know you. And so the assumption that they're wanting your help may not be the case. It will look like that.
It might not even look like that. It's a very good point, because a lot of people who are homeless, if you're living on the street, the public are a genuine threat.
Yes.
And a lot of homeless people cannot sleep during the night, at least. They sleep during the day when there's lots of people around, because people will urinate on them. People will literally set them on fire. People will beat them up. So a stranger approaching another stranger who is assuming somebody's going to be hostile isn't necessarily the easiest situation to combat. So that's the reason, I guess, for giving your name and asking their name and making them a human, essentially.
So it's opening dialogue as you would anybody, and it just sets the tone for the conversations that are going to ensue. And I think that's worth remembering, because all those engagements may not always be positive. So it's just about thinking carefully and being informed, which is what we're going to go on to now, so you actually are able to give them some opportunities and some solutions maybe to why they're there, because of course you don't know, there's a story why they're there.
So once we've established people's names and maybe what they'd like, obviously, as we would say here, if somebody would like some food and they ask for money to buy that food, the easiest thing is to go and buy that food. And remember to ask them for their preferences.
Yes, so if they do like sugar with their tea or coffee, that's a nice thing to be able to say, rather than saying, I've simply put it.
Time and time again, we will see people complain, I bought them a McDonald's and I put ketchup on the chips and they said, oh, thanks, I don't like that. We're all human beings. If you are starving, the old saying is, oh, you'll eat anything. But wouldn't you want that person to enjoy the first meal that they've had for 2.5 days?
It builds on the trust then as well, because the person knows that you've bothered to find out.
You genuinely care.
And then I guess the next phase really is moving on to seeing whether the information that you've got, that you've prepared yourself with, which we will take you through, is the information that person wants.
So what is that information?
Are they homeless? Do they need an agency? They might say, yes, I've got a situation, I need the police. They may be reluctant to phone the police themselves, so obviously you can facilitate that. It might be that they need housing options, the local housing options. So this covers the whole of the UK. We're obviously based in Stafford, but this covers the whole of the UK. And we talked about ways technology has helped us find out what's going on in other towns, which is really helpful.
If you want to know more on that, check out last week when we talked about apps that if somebody says, oh, I need this specific help, you can find food banks that are local, you can find places like House of Bread and other shelters that are local to that person.
So when you're saying to somebody, well, have you been to housing options in Stafford, and they say, no, I haven't been, then you can say, well, it's on the riverside, it's down by the Revolution Bar, and you'll know that if it's sort of 9 to 5 roughly on a Monday to Friday, that they are likely to be open. You could tweak it and say, actually, it'd be really good if you went now, or if it's not available, the soonest opportunity. But it would be worth just checking, first of all, you know exactly where that is if you're unclear, and what those opening hours are, because I think on Friday they might close a little bit early. So just be saying, do go along. It's a drop-in arrangement, so they're not going to have to wait around, have an appointment. So they might wait around, but they will be seen. And that's the first really key thing. They need to register as homeless, because there's a lot of support that is available should they present themselves, and that varies in terms of what that is.
We'll come on to that in different weeks. So as the weeks go on, we'll focus on different areas, and we'll explain why it's important to register as homeless, and how housing options can help, and where it goes on from there. Basically, there is a lot of stuff that goes on when you approach a homeless person, but what we really wanted to get across is there genuinely is safety risks, and there is safeguarding risks that come along to that. I was talking to a gentleman today who was speaking to a lady who he discovered was homeless, and said, oh, she's welcome to come round to mine. Now that gentleman is vulnerable himself, but I explained to him, because he said, oh, I've been homeless myself and I know how hard it is, and I explained to him that if something happened, and it might not happen between them, it might just be gossip, a friend of a friend might hear that a lady's staying somewhere, and things just have a habit of getting out of hand when vulnerable people are involved. If that lady was only 2 days away from securing housing, something goes wrong, and then she's 2 months away from securing housing, giving her a bed for the night was actually not the best thing to do. That might sound really, really contradictory and really harsh, but it is a very complex situation when dealing with homelessness. And we've talked about homelessness, people on the street. A lot of people say, oh, so-and-so's got a house to go to. It might not be theirs. They might have a house, but it might be sofa surfing, and it might come to an end immediately. So if you're walking around and somebody says, oh, so-and-so's got somewhere to go, that might be true for that night. It might not be true for the rest of the night. So there's a lot of this deserving homeless and undeserving homeless. Anybody who is on the street is in need of something. It might not be money, but it might be support for mental health issues, for housing, for a myriad of reasons. So we'll go on to lots more stuff throughout the weeks as the campaign goes on. But just remember, if you are wanting to talk to somebody on the street, make sure it's in a well-lit area. Make sure that you're not putting them at risk by approaching them. Make sure you're not putting yourself at risk or anybody you're with. Try to go with somebody else if possible. Make sure that if it's an emergency, you call 999, or if they need more help than just the sandwich you brought them, maybe tell them about House of Bread, and we are open 24/7 for you to call us about that, and our cafe's open Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. A lot of information there that we've dished out.
Good.
But thank you very much, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for bearing with this probably heavily edited video, because it will go on for ages if we left in every little detail we've spoken about. If you want a slightly more light-hearted video about what we're doing, when we're doing it, and the events that we're holding at Cafe 43 and other places, check out Hob News. That goes out on Sundays at 4. Thank you very much for watching as ever. You absolutely great as a community. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.